7:09 a.m., Wacker Drive, Chicago. Traffic is not moving. The driver has business radio on. Powell's name comes up, and I realize I stopped scrolling my phone. Most people think this is just another Fed headline. It is not. It is a quiet decision about who gets to keep waiting. Everyone is obsessing over the same dead argument right now. Will the Fed cut soon, or will rates stay higher for longer? That sounds like a market debate. It sounds technical. It sounds distant. It sounds like the kind of thing that matters to traders, not to normal people sitting in traffic before 7:15 in the morning. But that is exactly why it works. Because while everyone is staring at the direction of the next move, almost nobody is looking at what the waiting itself is doing. And the waiting is not neutral.
The Federal Reserve left rates unchanged in March at 3.50% to 3.75%. Powell made it clear they are still watching inflation, energy prices, and the broader economy before moving again. The next scheduled FOMC meeting is April 28-29. That is the official story. Here is the real one. This is not really a fight between cut soon and hold longer. It's a system where rate uncertainty itself keeps workers, first-time buyers, and retail investors frozen, while people who already own assets keep collecting time, yield, and positioning. That is the mechanism, not the rate alone, not the headline alone, the uncertainty. The pause does not hit everyone equally. It selects. And once you see that, the whole debate changes. If you are already inside the system, uncertainty is annoying. If you are still trying to get in, uncertainty is paralysis. If you already own the house, the index fund, the rental property, the bond ladder, the business with pricing power, a Fed pause is a delay, maybe an inconvenience, maybe a slightly different spreadsheet. If you are trying to buy your first home, deploy your first real capital, refinance debt, start a business, or simply stop losing ground to inflation, a Fed pause is not a delay. It is another locked door. And people keep pretending that this is discipline. Sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it is just exclusion with better language. Look at what happened around the March decision. The Fed held steady at 3.50 to 3.75%. At the same time, Reuters reported on April 7th that the New York Fed's March survey of consumer expectations showed one-year inflation expectations rising to 3.4% from 3.0%, while expected gasoline price increases jumped to 9.4%. That is not abstract. That is the cost of waiting colliding with the cost of living in real time. So now think about the two people inside the same country hearing the same sentence. The Fed is staying patient. Person 1 hears, "Good, my cash is still earning. My short-duration treasuries still pay. My portfolio stays defensive. I can wait for better entry points. I can buy weakness. I can let somebody else panic first." Person 2 hears, "Great, mortgage rates stay hostile. Credit stays expensive. My savings still trail the real cost of moving up. I still do not know whether to buy, wait, borrow, or stay frozen while the market keeps drifting further away." Same headline, different universe. And that is the part the financial media almost never says out loud. The Fed does not need to hurt you directly for the system to keep selecting against you. It just needs to keep you unsure long enough. That is the whole move. Because uncertainty changes behavior before it changes data. People delay home purchases. They sit on cash too long. They avoid risk too long. They miss entry. They keep renting. They tell themselves they are being responsible. Sometimes they are. But when an entire generation keeps getting trained to treat permanent hesitation like wisdom, something else is happening. 6:52 a.m. Another day. Same city. Red brake lights in the dark before sunrise. A guy in the next car is shaving in the mirror at a red light. You can almost feel how expensive the morning already is before you have bought anything. That is what this kind of policy environment really does. It turns economic life into a waiting room and then tells you the waiting room is maturity. And yes, the Fed has reasons. Inflation is still above target, energy prices are volatile, officials are trying to avoid cutting too early and losing credibility. That part is real. This is not about pretending Jerome Powell wakes up trying to crush retail investors. It is worse than that. It is structural. Because even when the intent is defensible, the distribution of pain is not. The same patience that protects inflation credibility is also buying time for the people who were already inside before the door closed. That is why this debate is so deceptive. Cut soon sounds bullish. Hold longer sounds prudent, but both sides keep the public trapped inside the same false horizon. As long as everyone is fixated on the timing of the pivot, they stop noticing that the waiting period itself is already redistributing power.
And the redistribution is not just about money, it is about time. Time is the real asset here. If you have capital, time compounds for you. If you do not, time extracts from you. One side opens a brokerage app over morning coffee and buys the dip. The other opens a rent invoice, stares at the number, and does the math again. That is not a macro opinion. That is a class filter hidden inside monetary language.
And it gets even uglier when you look at psychology. Because people on the outside start blaming themselves. They say, I should have bought earlier. I should have been smarter. I should have seen it coming. And that last one, that is the one that keeps people frozen the longest. Maybe. But there is another possibility. Maybe you are being judged inside a system where hesitation is rational for you and profitable for somebody else. That matters. Because once you understand that, you stop confusing your emotional response with personal weakness. You stop calling every delay discipline just because CNBC can dress it up in calm voices and clean graphics.
And no, this does not mean the Fed is evil. That is lazy. That is content for people who need villains because they cannot describe mechanisms. The mechanism is enough. A rate held at 3.50 to 3.75% while inflation expectations rise again. A market arguing over cuts versus holds. A public told to be patient. Asset owners collecting yield, optionality, and time while everyone else keeps getting trained to stay defensive. That is the script. Not the one on television, the one underneath it. And if you want the most uncomfortable version of this, here it is. The Fed does not need to cause a crash to deepen inequality. It can do it with a pause, quietly, respectably, under the banner of caution.
Two people wake up in the same country. One hears higher for longer and sharpens a strategy. The other hears higher for longer and postpones a life decision. That is the split. Not bulls versus bears, not doves versus hawks, not cut versus hold. Inside versus outside. So the next time you hear someone ask whether Powell will cut in April, June, or later, ask a better question. Who is still being told to wait? And if the Fed's patience keeps rewarding people who are already inside while you stay outside, how long do you keep calling that discipline instead of admitting it is exclusion? Some people hear a pause, other people live inside it. If that felt less like analysis and more like recognition, subscribe and answer me in the comments. When the Fed says be patient, do you hear opportunity or do you hear another locked door?